you're saying that obviously this isn't a policy that you can go look up in the government. This is off the books, but there are individuals like, I guess maybe we would call them the Minister of the Interior or whatever, but there are people in the government that have a side hustle. They've got their real government job, things that they do above board, but then there are people in the government that have this plaza system. They are leasing out areas of Mexican territory where these cartels pay a fee and they can operate with impunity within that area to move a certain volume of people or drugs, and they get no hassle from the government. They're leasing that area, and it keeps all the other cartels away, and it keeps the government away.
Yeah, they're paying the convenience fee to be able to conduct their illicit operations within that geographic territory to those members of the government. That's exactly what it is.
Okay, and are they all around the border?
No, they stretch out throughout the country of Mexico. And the price is going to depend on, number one, how big is your organization, how big is the geography you want, and how valuable is the territory for either cultivating, safeguarding, or getting your product into the United States of America. Probably not going to pay as much for Onagua as you are for Juarez, because you've got much more logistical challenge from Onagua to get your property or your product in the United States than if you're in Juarez or just south of Nogales or something like that.
Okay, so that's prime real estate right along the border there. So
well, yeah, you pay more money for better real estate, obviously.
Yeah, and so they don't worry about the Mexican military or police force coming in there and bother them. They don't have to hide. They can just have things out in the open there.
Well, they can until somebody else comes along and offers the Mexican government or officials more money for that same territory, or moves in and has the power and the desire to take it over. Then they have to start worrying, because it's all about, like I said, it's all about money. When you go back to Pablo Acosta, the investigative reporters who looked into Pablo Acosta say that he would take $100,000 a month to the federal radio station in Onagua, and a cut went all the way up to the president of Mexico at that point in time. So you've got a lot of mouths to feed. You've got a lot of variables going on. And so there is no real stability for the most part, because they're constantly competing with each other. They're constantly trying to outbid each other, or they're trying to kill each other in order to get the upper hand.
So how much money are we talking about here? I've been to Eagle Pass. I've been to a lot of areas around the border there. Some of these areas go for miles. I mean, 20, 30, 40, 50 miles along there. Will one cartel control all of that? A long stretch of the river? Will somebody have 20, 30, 40 miles of it, or is it chopped up?
It's chopped up, and it varies depending on where you're at and who has access to certain areas, who's either paid for it or has enough muscle in order to come in and be able to obtain it. So it varies. The size of that contact with the border varies based off of the organization and how the government has it laid out, and how much your neighbors are willing to try to fight and take it from you.
Yeah, and you say somebody was paying $100,000 a month, then Colombians come in and say, we'll give you $1 million. So they need to get rid of the guy they made a deal with for 100, so they just go take him out.
It's all about money.
Wow. So are these government officials that are on the take like this? I know there's a lot of people that have got their hands in the till, but they must be making a lot of money. Are they living extravagant lifestyles down there?
That is a good question. I don't know. I don't know how they're living, but I don't care how much money they're making. Is it worth selling your soul to the devil, so to speak? I would think that for all of the luxury they could buy, they probably still can't buy a good night's sleep because of the people they're dealing with. You never know who's going to turn on who.
I would think that it's such a dog-eat-dog system that you're describing. You just wonder, is it going to be tomorrow or the next day? It seemed like it's when, not if, somebody's going to step on you to get to the next level. I don't know how in the world they ever survive in that situation.
That's the nature of the business, I guess. If you want you want to get in bed with them, you're going to have to deal with those consequences. But the problem is, human nature, most people have a short memory and are greedy. And once they're willing to take a little bit, then they're owned. Because once the cartel has you in their pocket, there's no getting out without their permission. And so it's just the nature of the business down there.
How much of this is bleeding across the border in terms of corruption on the American side?
I guarantee you it's happening. We have discussions with some of our friends along the border, and it's a problem that law enforcement along the border faces on a regular basis. But down there, it's when you get on the Texas side, you have a couple different things. And I will tell you that when we first started working closely with folks from the border, we were really distrustful of some of the law enforcement. You have to know who to trust and who you can't. But I will tell you that one of the things that really opened my eyes was we were having a meeting in Kingsville, and one of the officers from the Rio Grande Valley came up and said, "Hey, listen, I know you don't trust us. I understand." They said, "But let me explain to you how it works where we're at." The guy tells me, "I work for a small police department." He said, "I have a cartel person assigned to follow me every day when I'm working, so they know what I'm doing. I have one that's assigned to follow me every day when I'm off, so they know where I go. They know where my family is. They know where my kids go to school." And he said, "While you may think that we're all corrupt," he said, "look at it this way. Imagine yourself walking out of your house, getting ready to go to work, and your patrol car is in the driveway. And when you go to get in your patrol car, there's a manila envelope underneath the windshield wiper." He said, "In that manila envelope may be a picture of your daughter at the playground at the elementary school. And all it says is, 'Don't work Highway 281 between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. today.'" And he said, "That's it." He says, "Do you think I'm going to go work Highway 281 between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. today?" I said, "I wouldn't think so." He says, "No." And he goes, "The problem is, who do I tell?" He says, "Because a lot of times the cartel has people embedded within our law enforcement agencies down here. And so I can't go tell my supervisors, because if it gets out, then my family's in danger." And he says, so that's kind of the life that those poor people are living down in the valley and along in the border towns, is the vast intimidation. Now, are there cases of bribery? We've seen it. We have counties down there where the sheriffs have gone to federal prison. Their family members have gone to federal prison. They've been working with the cartels. They have helped the cartels. We've seen it much farther north than the border, where law enforcement has helped them because they do offer money sometimes. But it's one of those things that when you get down the border has become more like Mexico in many ways than it has the United States. And I feel sorry for those folks, because there's a lot of good people down there who are living in fear and are trying to do the best. And to me, those guys are heroes, because they're right there on the front line. It would be easy to criticize them, when you're a long ways off. But when you look at these folks and their families are being threatened, and all they're being told is not to be at a particular place at a particular time, really can't blame them for not being there. If it was your family, would you go out and work the highway after they gave you a picture of your kid on playground at school?
I think I'd be looking for someplace I could farm in Nebraska or something. It just seems like that's a very dangerous place to be. $36 trillion. That is the U.S. debt, and it gets deeper and deeper by the day. Our debt has never been higher, nor have the stakes. The government is looking to slash the federal budget by $2 trillion, and no one knows what that will mean for your job, savings, and future. I've seen a lot in my time, and there's one thing I know for sure. You need to prepare before it's too late. I trust Preserve Gold to help protect my wealth, and I strongly urge you to do the same. They are the only precious metals firm I trust and recommend to my family, friends, and audience, and they have a special offer just for you. Text Dr. Phil to 50505 to get your free precious metals guide from Preserve Gold. With gold prices recently breaking records and analysts predicting this trend to continue throughout 2025, you cannot afford to wait. As a bonus, you can get up to $15,000 with a qualified purchase from Preserve Gold. So don't wait. Text Dr. Phil to 50505 today. Talk to me about these stash sites that you're talking about, because you said when you first came in as sheriff in 2021, you realized real quickly that the cartels had, I think you said 16 different stash sites that you discovered just straight away. What are stash sites and what do they consist of and what are they stashing? I assume it's drugs, of course, but talk about what you found.
So Goliad is halfway between Laredo and Houston. So we're about 180 miles out of Laredo, 180 miles from Houston. But most of our traffic actually comes out of the Rio Grande Valley, McAllen, Brownsville, down in that area. And so what was happening was you have cartels. Cartels have liaisons. The liaisons work with contractors that work for the cartels. And then the contractors have subcontractors. So what was happening was these contractors would have either the contractors themselves or subcontractors would drive loads of illegal aliens up to Goliad or one of the counties in this area. And a stash site is a place where they might put those illegal aliens there for a little while they go fuel up or while they go and get supplies. It also is a place where they would stash stolen vehicles to make sure the GPS was properly disconnected, and these places were not on property that was owned by anybody related to any of the contractors or anything. Usually these properties were out in the middle of nowhere. They were absentee landowners. They had scouts find them for them, and they would stash these people. So in our area, especially in 2021, they were bringing up these illegals. They would put them on the stash site. The driver would leave. The illegals would stay on this property that didn't belong to anybody associated with the activity. And then somebody from the Houston area would come down to that location, pick them up, and then take them on the journey to Houston. And so that's really what most of our stash sites were. It was stashing out illegal aliens, resupply for water, food, anything like that, fixing flats, making repairs to cars, or storing stolen vehicles in order to ensure that the GPS had been properly disconnected on them.
So these weren't buildings or anything. They were just off the road out in the middle of nowhere where people could congregate, so they weren't seen from the street. They weren't seen from the road.
Most of them, that is correct. Some of them did have houses that hadn't been lived in a long time, and the cartel contractors do utilize houses in smaller communities as stash sites, and we're aware of that. But most of ours were out on absentee landowners that were nowhere from this area. And the cartel scouts had located those places and had set them up shop so that they could utilize them rent-free, of course.
Yeah. And you said some of these people were afraid to come down and get on their own land because these people were there. You don't want to happen onto them.
We had a lot of residents who were scared because of the activity and the brush out in the county when we first got here in 2021. And so we worked very hard to remedy that. Now, we found 16 cartel stash sites. There's not much telling how many stash sites there were actually out in the county, but those are just the ones we were able to discover through our proactive work. So, and then when you go a little farther south of us, you'll find ranches that are completely abandoned because it's no longer safe, or it hasn't been safe for quite a while for people to leave their house unattended or leave their family at home while they go to work. And so a lot of those larger ranches, the people that own them have bought houses in the towns so that their wife and children will be safe while they go to work during the day.